Turn on again. Good afternoon and welcome to the Sunshine Coast Regional District regular board meeting of Thursday, October 27th. And I'd like to acknowledge that we operate on the traditional territory of the Sechelt and Squamish Nation. We have an amended agenda in front of us. Are there any other additions or deletions to the agenda? Seeing none, I'd look for a motion to adopt the amended agenda as presented. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you. Then I'd look for a motion to receive all the reports, the minutes, reports, and communications. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you very much. So we'll move on to the regular board meeting minutes of October 13th, 2022. I'm sorry, I just have to get into the other agenda. This is Annex A, pages 1 through 9. Any errors or omissions in these minutes? Director or Corporate Officer, Ms. Reid, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Before the board considers adoption of the minutes, there is an administrative correction we wanted to point out, which is on page 4 of the agenda, and it's recommendation number 8, request for proposal, Half Moon Bay Fire Department self-contained breathing apparatus. In the third clause, the increase from $175,900, it should be up to $224,300.
Okay, so just repeat that on, it's in the fourth clause. It should read from $175,900 up to $224,300.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Any other errors or omissions? All right, I'd look for a motion to adopt as amended. Moved, seconded, all in favor? Thank you. Any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none, we'll move on to Annex B, placement of notice on title, and this is over to our Chief Building Official.
Thank you, Chair. I'm here with Brian Kennett, Chief Building Official, beside me. And under Section 57 of the Community Charter, the Regional District has authority to recommend and to place a notice on title when we become aware of a contravention of our building bylaw. And so, as directors know, we do that from time to time. Doing so protects the Regional District and future landowners. And at this time, staff are recommending placement of notice on title for 2 properties, as outlined in the report. And Chief Building Official Kennett and I are pleased to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, do we have either of the property owners in the audience or in the gallery?
Not for the first property.
Thank you. All right, directors, any questions or comments? Director Hiltz.
Thanks, Chair. The one question I had was on the first notice, and it's related to updating of assessment values. This property in the imagery shows a building built in like 2016, 2017. Looks like about 2,000 square feet, and it's assessed at $11,000 in land and property value. So there's a loss of revenue through taxation. So this might be an extreme case where, you know, the regional district and government has lost revenue because this property has not been properly evaluated in terms of assessment. So if staff know about how BC assessment could become informed about this property and adjust the assessment, because right now it doesn't seem like there's a mechanism. So if there's if they have any comment on that, thanks.
Staff?
As far as I'm aware, BC Assessment is conducting their assessments all the time for improvement values. So we do notify them when we issue a permit, but I believe they conduct their own assessments constantly. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, it does. So we're relying on BC Assessment to eventually catch up, right? That's what we're waiting for.
Thank you. To add to what our chief building official said, my understanding of the situation is that BC Assessment is aware when we issue a permit, but unless they go and perform inspections, they're actually not aware of what improvements are constructed. So it's their work that determines the assessed value, not our issuance of a permit. And further, from time to time, they bring unauthorized construction to our attention when what they're seeing does not match what we tell them we have issued permits for. Thanks. Oh, and I might add, there is the question of what the market value of an unauthorized building is. It may be a liability rather than a positive influence. Thanks.
Yeah, good point. Particularly if there's something on title. Any other questions about any of these properties? Director McMahon?
Well, that was a charming can of worms. So is it possible to issue a retroactive building permit? And if so, would they be on the hook for retroactive property taxes?
We often have BC Assessment come and speak with us, and that would be, the second part of that question would be an excellent one to pursue with those who have more information about the discrete parts of how taxation works. On the first part, yes, it is possible. Ultimately, that is our goal, to bring all properties into compliance. And per the fee schedule of our building bylaw, double fees are charged for that process. Thanks.
Thank you. Anything further? Go ahead.
I'm pleased to move the recommendations on page 10.
Is there a seconder? Seconded? Okay, so before we actually vote on this, again, I want to ask if either of the owners of these properties are in the gallery. We do not have anybody online. We do not have anybody in the room. All right, so they've had their opportunity to be here to speak to these and are not here. All right, so all those in favor of the recommendations on the floor? Thank you very much. Number 4, water supply update, GM Infrastructure Services. Thank you, Mr. Kennett.
Thank you, Chair. It's, again, not my pleasure to provide you today with a water supply update, because I would still hope that today I could have presented you with an evaluation of the drought response plan for this year, but there we are. I'm going to share some slides with you. So today's presentation is an update on the state of affairs of our drought response and operations and the activities of the Emergency Operations Center to date. So the current conditions. 2 weeks ago, I was up at the lakes, and I was accompanied by people in shorts. Today, it's a different sight up there. It's really indicative of the change in weather from above average warm and dry weather to currently wet and definitely also cooler weather. But it definitely also resulted in stabilizing and the decline in our water supply sources across all systems. Currently, in terms of our siphons, 1 is still operating at Chapman and 3 at Edwards. And I will come to that later on why that is the case. Chapman level has stabilized at just over 5 meters below the top of the dam. And there it was just still this morning. And Edwards Lake about 3.5 meters below the top of the dam. I received a question how this was measured, because they were far below the dam levels, but we installed additional lake levels further into the lake to measure the drop downs. What is also happening is that the flows in Chapman Creek are dropping extremely fast after a rain event. What normally is the case is that when there is a significant rain event, our creek rises, and then it slowly and gradually returns to a lower level, which is indicative of a lot of the rain just being absorbed in the watershed and then slowly released back to the creek. What we're seeing right now is a very steep decline in the rain event from Tuesday. It was from 3,600 liters a second to 500 liters a second within 24 hours. Usually that takes 2 or 3 days to get to the same level. So it just means that there's a lot of runoff and not a lot of infiltration into the soil. The state of emergency is extended until this Monday at midnight, and further extensions are being considered, and all water regulations are still being in place. This is the rainfall until last Tuesday, end of day. So the data, the rain from today is not included yet, but you can see that the amount of rain we received over the last several months is still far below the average over the last 10 years. And there's still a lot of rain to fall before we even hit the average for October. Not sure if we're going to make that. So there was in the forecast rain for today and additional rain for Saturday and Sunday. That there's about 50 mil expected for over the weekend. And however, the temperature also dropped. Chapman Lake yesterday morning, 8 o'clock. 7-inch, almost 20 centimeters of snow on the ground. It's a beautiful picture, but it's not the picture I want to present on a water supply update in a drought emergency. This means that when there's rain falling, as it is today, the rain is not penetrating, is not flowing, is not recharging the lake as fast as we would like to. There's no runoff, it's all absorbed by the snow. So yes, it has rained there significantly this morning, about over 40 millimeters, but only a very limited amount of lake level increase as a result of it, because it's all absorbed by the melting snow. So the state of emergency is still in place for Sechelt Nation, Sechelt Nation Government District, I have to say, District Sechelt and the SRD. They were extended, as I indicated, until this Monday, and it's still due to the imminent risk that we might lose our water supply. So the water restrictions under the state of local emergency are also still in place. The restricted uses currently are the production of any alcoholic beverages for resale, packaging of water for sale to others, except when it is to properties that currently don't have another water supply available. Operating, filling of pools, hot tubs, steam bath, saunas, growing of cannabis, manufacturing, transporting, and any other activities related to the concrete, asphalt, or aggregate industry. And we connected with as much properties in person as possible that were impacted by these restrictions. The community demand really dropped further the moment the state of local emergency was declared. It was announced on the 7th, October 17th, and was in effect on the 18th. And you can see that since we've been hovering between 8.5 million liters a day, which is a record low, I think, for the SRD over the last several years. We've never been this low, which is an amazing to see, but also a good indicator that the community is fully aware of the situation we're in. Ever Montefloniet, during my last update, we are still waiting for approval from the ministry We since received the approval from the ministry to reduce the flows. They were, for fish flow, they were in effect as of a week and a half ago, or was it now? Yeah, last week, Thursday evening, we were able to start releasing them down to 160. And of course, Sunday, it started raining. So we were back up again over 200 liters a second. Chum is currently actively migrating up the creek. This is a picture of this morning, and when staff took this picture, they could actually see the chum moving up. So we'll continue how that evolves over the upcoming weeks. So how's the water supply system currently arranged? We have one siphon open at Chapman and 3 at Edwards, and they're combined still providing about 280 liters a second to the creek. Earlier this week, when it was not raining on Monday and Tuesday, we were still losing over 100 liters a second of the 280 to the creek bed between the lakes and our intake. So that means that the sponge was even though it rained, there was still a lot of water loss to the creek. And I think that's indicative for the fact that the watershed is just still extremely dry. The sponge is still extremely dry. And the reason why we're having only one siphon at Chapman, at that time, the lake level was such that there was just not enough water to have more siphons running without having them completely run dry in a short amount of time. I just indicated that there is still a lot of loss to the watershed. The sponge is still recharging. And also after the first, at least after the Sunday and Tuesday rain events, we saw the creek levels returning to a higher level than with no rain, but still they were reliant on the fact that we were releasing water from our siphons. If we wouldn't have released the water, we might not have been able to provide water to the community as well as meet the EFN of 160 liters a second. Chester well is still online. It's running full tilt. Town of Gibsons, it's currently halted on days when we have enough creek flow, and it will be open again when it's dry again for a number of days. So it's still available to us, and we'll use it when needed. And Cray Creek has been shut down because of the high turbidity levels in the water as expected. This was Edwards Lake on Sunday. You can see that the channel towards the dam, the dam is completely dry. So we're this time we had 4 siphons even running here. The siphons are located on the west side, on the left side of the dam. On the right, picture to the right is actually the same spot, bend and 100 degrees turned facing the lake. And you can see the siphons there are located to the right of the picture. And this is Chapman Lake yesterday morning, the same channel. Staff were up there yesterday morning actually to do environmental monitoring because that's required under our siphons. But it was definitely slippery. This was at Chapman Lake 2 weeks ago, where you can really see this time it was already over about 5 meters and drawdown. You can see that at the back of the lake there's a huge area of land, of creek bed, completely exposed. Normally the water is really up against the trees here all around the lake. And our intake structure in picture is really on the far side of the lake here. You can see my mouse. This is it yesterday morning. You can see this is the dam structure, the channel, and the water level. So it would take about 3 meters of lake increase to have water from the lake even reaching the bottom of the dam. And then we still are about 2 meters below the top of the dam. This is the same location, but then from the other side, you can see the siphons located here. Oh. And you can see how significant the drawdown is. Beautiful pictures, but so the summary: Edwards and Chapman Lake. Previously, we communicated that about 150 millimeters of rain was required to really recharge the lakes. But instead of rain, we received snow, and that's really is limiting the recharge of the lake significantly. Next several days, temperatures will be above zero, also at the lakes. So there might be some snow melt, but definitely there will be still a lot of water and rain being absorbed by the snow and not recharging the lake itself. But it will be, I expect the lake levels to come up, but I don't expect that by Sunday all the snow will be melted, by far not. And next week, it's predicted to be here around 6, 7, 8, 9 degrees during daytime. It's about 7 degrees difference with up at the lakes. So it will be freezing at least at night and potentially hovering just above freezing level during daytime. So not a lot of snow melt will happen then. So what we'll see is a slow refilling of the lakes and potential impacts to the functioning of the siphon system. They're still running fine as we speak, but we hope that fingers crossed that it will stay that way. And just as a teaser, the picture below is how Chapman Lake channel should look like, fully filled up to the brim. Chapman Creek. Rainfall is acting as there's a lot of runoff and moving quickly through the watershed. And I think you can compare it. Everybody, or at least I had my houseplants not water them sufficiently. So the first pour of water you put on the houseplant, the water will just flow over the pot. It's not being absorbed with the water. And that's exactly what's happening now currently at the watershed. The soil is so dry that it's just not absorbing any water. And I was yesterday in my garden and I tried to dig down with my hand, and the first inch and a half was maybe a little bit wet, but underneath is still completely dry. And that's exactly what's happening in the watershed. So before that water actually reaches the deeper layers and enters the aquifer, and we rely on the aquifer for our water supply long term, it will take a lot of rain. So the sponge is still really dry, and we need a significant amount of rain over multiple days to really recharge that. I say days, but actually I think it will be weeks. So until then, we hope to be able to have every now and then our good rain event to recharge the creeks a little bit, and that we can keep it running with our siphon system as a backup. So what are we doing in terms of developing alternative water supply sources? We are considering our options almost on a daily basis. Sometimes even they're changing every hour based on the information we receive. But tomorrow morning we'll make the final decision what we do with Church Road. The work started to get a temporary solution there in place, but we could still do a no-go. But the final decision on that will be made tomorrow if we are indeed pursuing or going to do the work to get the temporary water supply from that well field in place. Siphon modification at Edwards Lake, we were planning to do that early this week. Was cancelled because at that time there was snow on the ground, just unsafe to work on. And that's still the situation. And I think even if we would have done it earlier, the chance that, because they would actually be even lower in the water, the chance that over time they might have been functioning adequately in these temperatures up there would have been substantial. Third Lake is still available to us. It's ready to go if needed. One thing is not on the sheet here is that we received approval from Vancouver Coastal Health to provide water to the Twanak and San Diego community from our Creek source, if the turbidity is a little bit manageable, but with a boil water advisory. So if needed, a small part of our community could receive water from that source as well, but with a boil water on top of it. We had a fair share of media attention over the last 2 weeks. National, BC, media, TV, radio, as well as several articles in newspapers. There are weekly community check-in videos posted on our Facebook as well as on YouTube channels, and twice or 3 times a week we are doing media releases. In the community, we, especially last week, we really upped our presence. We had the support of, the full support of not only our bylaw enforcement staff, but also of several staff from our fire department that were helping us doing a lot of in-person visits to in the community. We visited most of the businesses that were impacted by the state of a local emergency order. We visited large water users to make them even more aware of their high water use. They will receive letters, but we did in-person visits as well. There were several visits to properties with large leaks. And of course, they helped us with regular patrols for the conservation regulations. And currently, over 725 people are getting a monthly update on their water use. Number of fines issued at the moment is 24, and there's still several in process. And as you can see, last several years it was 1, 2, 0, and 8, and we're currently at 24. So I think that's indicative of the amount of work that we've been doing in the community. Special slide on leak resolutions. In September, about close to 400 leaks letters were sent out, and I did some calculations. Those leaks, on average, were using 4 times an average household, the amount of an average household, on average. So there are leaks that are using 10 times that of a regular household. So hence our strong urge to everybody that receives a leak letter from us to take action. Your deed, your action, your fixing of your leak helps us significantly. It's the most effective water conservation measure we have in place, fixing leaks. In-person visits really made a difference there in convincing some of those people that with leaks to actually take action, and some actually took immediate action, and some of them were resolved within several days. Required some significant extra staff time from us, but we're really happy with the result there. And I think that's something that we need to continue to doing. We issued in total 12 water shut-off notices to people. There's several still unresolved, but in total, to date, we reduced the demand already by 4%, just by issuing shut-off notices to large property with large leaks, and we're working with two property with large leaks on developing and implementing plans to get those leaks resolved in upcoming weeks as well. So what's next? There will be ongoing monitoring, of course, of the lake levels, snow levels, the functioning of our siphon system, as well as the assessments of what's happening with Chapman Creek, the flows itself, how quickly is the water, do we feel that the watershed is recharging, and what does that say for the winter season. And maybe I can explain one thing a little bit more. Last year in February, there was a long spell of dry weather. At that time, we were not able to meet the event because the watershed was frozen for several days. So it's not uncommon that during the winter, the watershed just is not able to provide the amount of water we need. So that's why I'm so concerned that if the watershed is not recharging enough, early in the season that it just freezes up and it's not recharging at all for later in the winter season. Decision on extending the state of local emergency and associated water use restriction order will be made in the upcoming days. Same with the order itself, the water conservation regulations as per our bylaws. And I say this also for our other system because we still have South Pender Stage 2 and Eastbourne at Stage 4. So they will be reconsidered as well in the upcoming days. And of course, staff are just doing what they need to do on a daily basis, manage our water system and all the other stuff I just talked about. So what do we ask from the community? Please continue to conserve water. Yes, it's raining outside, but I think this presentation made it clear we're definitely not out of the woods yet. Fixing leaks is the number one water conservation measure that everybody can take at the moment. The moment you receive a leak letter from us, and this is only relevant for, of course, unfortunately, I said of course, but I mean unfortunately, the people that are in the residential and rural areas, because in Schiphol they don't have the meters yet. But everybody else, if you have a meter, please fix it. And yes, it's raining and there's a lot of runoff happening, so clean your culverts, because otherwise we have that other issue to deal with, which is flooding. And we prefer not to have two UCs running at the same time. So stay informed. Next board meeting, I will provide a further update. And again, thank you all to the community for your efforts to reduce your consumption. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Director Toth.
Thank you, Chair. Two questions, I guess. First one is, if I can find my notes again, is this presentation going up on the website and out to social media and the press? Something easily consumed by folks? And then the second question is, how is Eastbourne looking? I know that we regularly suffer there, and with the crisis in Chapman, we haven't really asked lately, but I'm just wondering how it's faring. Thank you.
Yes, the presentation will go out, social media, etc., today, and on the website. In terms of Eastbourne, latest update is they've been definitely also impacted by the drought. They're hanging in there in terms of water supply, and I think the saving grace for them is that it's late in the season, so the number of residents is low. But we hope that this amount of rain that we're receiving this week is also recharging, is at least getting a little bit recharged in the aquifer and more, yeah. So we wait for that news next week and then we make a decision on what to do there.
Director Toth, that's good. Yeah, good. Thank you. Director McMahon.
Yes, there was a lot of attention in the media and in social media to the shutoffs at the Bayside and Creekside campgrounds. So do you have an update for us on how the residents are doing now and what the situation is?
Thank you. The update for Creekside is that for those who were driving up the hill earlier today, you might have seen that there is a construction crew working there at the moment. They are installing equipment to reduce the flow to and the pressure to the property. What that will result in is that everybody will get their water restored, but at a slightly reduced pressure, which will also significantly reduce the leakage. And that's their first phase, and after that they will start replacing several sections within the property. And they submitted a plan to us to have everything, all the leaks addressed by the end of spring or end of winter next year, April, I think, which would be perfect. And Bayview, we are awaiting the submission of a final plan, but it looks like their intent is to have all the required upgrades there completed by the end of next week. And we restored water to the service early this week to for the benefit of the residents, but also because it was required to identify actually where all the leaks were. So that work is ongoing. So with both properties, I think there's significant progress to the benefit of the residents, as well as a leak reduction in place.
Thank you. It's nice to hear that those property owners are working with us to resolve the situation and address the water use for the residents. Director Ties.
Yes, thank you. I'm just wondering, when we have leak resolutions that are only happening because somebody turned off the taps on them, and apparently a high water bill wasn't enough of an incentive when the problem's been going on for months, if not years. How are we planning on addressing that in the future, so that there may be actually be some recourse, or maybe some bylaw, I guess a more stringent bylaw around fining people that have a leak and are not resolving it? I think that's something that should be looked at as we look into the future, so that it's not only just high water bills that people can afford, but that actually leaks do get resolved, and maybe we need a bit more teeth around that bylaw. Any comments on that?
Yeah, thank you. Staff is currently reviewing bylaw 42, water rates and regulations, and that's a bylaw that also stipulates charges, fees, and those kind of things. So as part of that, we are, and with the learnings also from that we're doing right now, we'll take that in consideration when bringing forward a revised bylaw for the board to consider, and we in our engagement with the community about it, because it's certainly something that we have identified and where we learned from that only sending a bill is not always enough. Some people are just willing to pay the bill.
Thank you. Director McMahon.
Yes, I'm passing on a question I got from a resident. If it's raining, can I flush?
You're always allowed to flush. I will never stop anybody, will prevent anybody from flushing. However, as indicated, the immediate concern is not when it's raining. We had quick flows currently of 3,000 liters a second, just before I came in, I think it was 2.5. But it will drop back, as indicated, quickly to levels that, so when it's actually raining, use the water. But when it stops raining, please be careful. And so that's why the water restrictions will need to stay in place, because they are not only for the times when it rains, they're also for the times when it's not raining.
Thank you. Director Hilt.
Thanks, Chair. I guess I'm sad more than anything, and I see the stress. You know, I think I'm feeling stress down where you are. It's clear, you know, that climate change is, we don't live in a rainforest anymore. We might live in a rainforest for 2 months of the year, but the public has to change its point of view somehow. May 1st seems very close already in 2023 at stage 1. So to say I'm stunned, this is still very serious. I feel very serious. So is the province showing interest in our situation? Are they calling up and say, hey, Remco, like, are things improving? Like, media's out there, so is anyone else interested in our problem in policy land out there and understanding our climate change?
Thank you for the question. I have not spoken to people in policy land, in your words, recently, but I know that last week when we were waiting for our approval to lower our EFN, I got a text from the decision maker within the province. I do want to get you the paperwork today, but I'm also writing a lot of briefing notes to my minister with respect to media requests on the same issue. So yes, it's definitely an item that is where everybody's aware of. I'm not speaking with anybody that is not aware of that we have a situation here. If it's a reporter, if EMBC, Emergency Management EMBC, is fully supportive, they're fully aware. They're fully aware of the fact that we are the first state of local emergency declared in Canada because of drought. And that is something that I'm not proud of, but it's definitely making an impact. And so people are aware of it and they're looking over our shoulders.
Thank you. Director Lee?
I hesitate to ask the question, but I have to see if I've got this right. And I understand that I'm asking you I'm asking staff to use a crystal ball here. But I think I heard that the lakes and the upstream watershed from the lakes are in danger of not providing any water shortly, as everything will be froze. And to me, that means that the siphons will probably quit as well. If we have a run of good luck for a week or so of temperatures above freezing, we might escape it. Did I hear that right?
It's yes, and it's very normal for in the midst of winter for the lake not to provide water, the lakes not to overflow because it's all frozen up, and that they're not overflowing into the creek. So that in itself is a normal situation. In this case, the lake level is lower, so from that perspective, okay. It's really the fact that the watershed below the lake are currently not providing the flow that we usually get. That require us to still supplement from the lakes, and therefore the lake levels, we would like to see them higher than where they are right now.
Okay, so the fact the lakes are frozen, the siphons don't work, that'll be something that we're going to have to face next year rather than this year.
If the siphons would stop, the siphons itself, they have a flow of some between 50 and 70 liters a second, and they're 6 to 8 inch. So before they freeze itself, it will take some time, but we might not be able to shut them off or close or regulate them anymore because all our valves will be frozen, etc., etc. So at some point we just have to shut them off because we cannot rely on them anymore, or our access to them would be too dangerous.
So it is normal then for us to expect the valley watershed itself to provide us water in the winter. That's a business as usual. So what we need is enough rain to recharge that part of it, and we're okay.
We need enough rain. Thank you for the question. We need enough rain over a longer period of time so that the soil actually can saturate and water is feeding into the aquifer underneath it. So we don't need 50 mil rain events because they will all just flush down. We need multiple days of 10, 20, 10, 20 so that it's actually slowly recharging. That's what we need. And we don't need temperatures like we have next week of 6-7 degrees because they are not helping us as well, because then only at the upper part is still again snow.
So my takeaway is it's way too early to panic. We got another month or so of things to look at before we know what our status quo situation will be. Is that correct?
If you would ask me a week ago, if you would have asked me to provide a presentation a week ago, you would have maybe received a slightly different presentation. In a week from now, you will receive another different presentation. It is, as Director Hiltz just indicated, we are in unprecedented territory, and so the role of the AOC is to monitor this on a daily basis. That's what we're doing as we're on top of this. And we do what we can to make predictions, but it's really extremely difficult because, we've never been here before.
Thank you very much. You're handling it very well, by the way. Thank you.
I think we call it a fluid situation. Right, right. Yeah, groaner, right, okay. Next, Director McMahon.
Yeah, so our system was designed for conditions that do not currently exist, is where we're at. This was just a curiosity question, and I think you kind of answered it already, but I'll ask just for fun. How do you turn the siphons on and off?
On and off is actually different. You can put them temporarily on and off and permanently on and off. Temporary is there's a valve at the bottom, and we go up there with the wrench and open the valve, and you'll get wet if you don't jump away quickly enough. Permanent one is we have to actually what we call break the valve. So at the top, break the siphons because it's suction. We just let air in, and then water is released at the bottom, and then we empty them. And that's what we call winterizing. So at some point we will have to make the decision when is the best time to actually start winterizing them. Because if we leave them as is, full of water, things will burst.
Thank you, Director Hilt.
Thanks. I'm going to switch to the open burning topic. Seoul had an open burning order, and the province in our area is dropping open burning. I believe it's October 28th. We're going. So I'm just trying to understand kind of community response and responsibilities and open burning. And can Seoul? I'm not sure how to think of open burning at this point in time with our water supply. Is there any connection there between the province's open burning and Seoul or the state of local emergency and what staff are doing? I'm just trying to put some pieces together there about burning and the risk to the community.
Thank you for the question. Staff are reviewing the lifting of the ban on category 2 and 3 fires by the province, which are larger fires. The campfire ban is still in place. That's something we regulate, and we are reviewing our options at the moment and see what is most appropriate given the circumstances.
Thank you, Director Pratt.
Thank you. Wow, it's crazy, crazy times, and I was worried to see that we would have snow there before the rain, before the rain had fully recharged the lakes. That is alarming where we're at right now. Being that, just to follow up on Director Hiltz's comments and questions about does the ministry know where we are? And as GM Rosenboom said, as they're answering questions, they're they're preparing briefing notes for ministers. And I'm wondering about using our last few minutes of this board, if we can, put together a letter outlining our situation and advocating for better process from the province around, and outlining our whole situation. This has been a very complicated situation from the beginning. When you think about the implications of what the park designation is, with the implications of climate change, the approval process for new water projects going forward, we're going to be in a complicated situation again next year, especially seeing as we're already in a freezing situation up in our main watershed. We have, as Director Lee said, getting the clarity around, okay, so this is what we're usually in, except for right now our creek bed is not recharging. Like we're in a critical situation going forward, and I'm I would like to ask the board if we would support a letter to go forward to the ministries. I'm going to say ministries, province, premier, etc., and just say, look, this is the situation we're in. These are how many ministries are involved with everything that we're doing. And this is everything we've, done, like outlining in point form. And there needs to be better work done by the province to work with municipal governments on getting these processes streamlined, especially facing the situation what we're in right now. So I can put that forward as a motion to write that letter, or we can have discussion on it as I'll leave that up to the chair.
Thank you. Let's hear from a couple of other directors and probably from staff too as to what topics we should cover in that letter. Director McMahon?
Yeah, I was thinking a little about the implications of our situation for other water systems in the province. So correct me if I'm wrong, our situation in having our reservoir lakes in a subalpine region, I think is pretty unusual. But relying on the watersheds that have been stressed by a prolonged drought and are experiencing, the water just running off them, that has got to be a pretty common situation going on right now, and it's got some pretty scary implications. Am I in the right ballpark?
Thank you for the question. There are several other local governments that are in part relying on lakes. Some of them are larger. Lake Arsmith, on the other side of the street, is a big example. So every system is different, and it totally depends on the elevation of the lake. If there are, in our case, if we would have Church Road fully developed and Langdale fully developed, we would not have had to rely on the lakes that much. But I think we also have to put it in perspective. One siphon is providing, as I just indicated, one siphon from Edwards is currently providing 70 liters a second. So one siphon is equal the amount of Church Road. And we have 3 siphons running and a smaller amount from Chapman. So it's a lot of water that we're releasing still from the lakes. It's 200 liters a second, so that's almost four times the volume that we will get out of Church Road. So in answer to your question, yes, the situation we're in is others I think are facing similar problems, but I think it's just how we are set up at this point in time that we are facing the situation we're in. And I think the word Sunshine Coast, the fact that we usually get a little bit less rain, especially during the summer months, is definitely impacting us right now.
Thank you. Director Toth?
Thank you, Chair. I'm fully in support of us sending letters and agitating to the province sort of one last time as this board. Access issues into the parks, are permitting for new wells. I've got a commercial property in another part of the province, and I'm going through the well licensing process for that. And I accept that as a small water system, a small property owner, I'm really low priority. But the fact that I'm stuck in the same queue with the regional district trying to supply water to 30,000 people, that's not right. And I think we need to be a lot more forceful about that. The SCRD and other, I recognize it's not always government. It is sometimes, improvement districts or local service areas. Like, they have to be given expediency. And if they can't fully approve a license, they need to be able to issue interim licenses or something more than they're currently doing. So totally in favor of whatever advocacy we can push forward on this.
Thank you. Director Hiltz?
Yeah, absolutely in agreement with putting forth our position, our troubles here to people who may be able to listen. I'm thinking like the Church Road, we have a temporary license for 75 liters a second, and there's a potential to go up later, if I remember. There is, and moving those kinds of things along, and totally supportive of a letter.
Thank you. Director McMahon?
Yeah, we could mention funding while we're at it, because, the costs that we're facing for our water system, for a relatively small tax base, are pretty significant. And the work that needs to be done on watershed protection across this province is significant and cannot be borne by local government.
Thank you. So, a few topics. Raising the dam. You have a proposed motion. Perfect. Raising the dam, deepening the channel, funding, licensing. Licensing, yeah, the expediency of licensing. Yes, go ahead, Remco.
If I may, there are two other items that I would like to add to that list. One is we are awaiting a response from the province on our request to permanently reduce our environmental flow need at Chapman Creek. And the other one is we've seen this year the importance of having siphon systems in place at the lakes. And in both cases, BC Parks, they were up there several weeks ago, and they were surprised about the low environmental impacts of having those siphon systems and how effective they are, also cost effective. They operate, no impacts, no noise. So we currently don't have the approval to, we have to take them out both next year. And I think if one thing that BC Parks can help us with is allowing us to have them at least in place there for another several years, because they are there, they function. So it will cost us a significant amount of cost to take them out, and once they're out, they will not go back.
Okay, so then who should this letter be addressed to? BC Parks you're talking about? Flynn Road?
There are,
Ministry of Environment?
yeah, I was actually thinking about the Premier. This is, it's given that we're the first state of local emergency because of drought, I think this is cross department, it's about funding, it's about BC Parks, which is Ministry of Environment, it's about Minister of Forest. I think there are multiple things, and I think this even touches on the new Ministry of Land, Water, Natural Resources, I think, or it's multi-ministerial, or it's Premier, either or.
All right, let's go to Director Pratt.
I was going to add in about the implications of the park designation and also the EFN as well. So thank you, Remco, for bringing those up. I personally think it should not just go to the Premier, but it should go interministerial as well, like as many of the ministries that we touch as possible, because just in case it falls off of one desk, but it needs to be copied to all of them as well as to our MLA. And I would also suggest to our MP.
Another piece of that is there is going to be a new Premier shortly, and potentially some of the ministers may change. Yes, Director McMahon.
Perhaps we could just CC to Cabinet, and then that would cover it off. There's the other part is that we have to do the science, right? And we're paying right now for a certain amount of environmental studies and environmental monitoring just because we have to. But, this needs to be done across the province. There's serious implications. So I don't know if we want to add that into our omnibus letter.
All right, I don't see any other hands up. Jennifer, you have a tentative motion for us? And Sherry's got something over there. Go to Jennifer first. Thanks.
Okay, I had some wording, but then I have a whole bunch of add-ons here. So I've got And that a letter be sent to the BC Premier and several ministries, our MLA and MP, requesting provincial support to address the current water supply situation for the Chapman watershed through several means, including but not limited to permanent upgrades to the current water diversion infrastructure at Chapman Lake and Edwards Lake, an expedited review of the SCRD's request to reduce the environmental flow needs for Chapman Creek and any future water license application related to water supply expansion projects, and making available grant funding for those initiatives. I've also added below the importance of raising the dam, deepening the channel funding, licensing request to permanently reduce our EFN. I'm not sure I heard that right. I'm sorry. The importance of approval of siphon systems in place for several years from BC Parks, implications of the park designation, and the EFN.
Okay, I think you've got all the pieces, some of them a number of times. So I think it just needs to be cleaned up. Okay, and Sherry will work with you on that, probably Remco as well. I think we've covered everything we need to cover. Remco?
Yeah, the only thing I would like to change now is change watershed into water system.
Okay, thank you.
All right, directors? Director McMahon?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I don't think we need to specify what we want to do with the infrastructure at Chapman Lake. Just flag it that we need the authority to work on it.
I think we want to reopen the discussion on what's possible there.
Thank you. So it's going to come back to us at the next meeting, a little different, but it'll cover off what we need to cover. That's good. Yes, Director McMahon.
Sorry, yeah, where and when is this letter? So it will come to the next board meeting? Like, what are we doing here?
Good question.
I think that depends on what you're asking. If you want staff to draft a letter for signature by the board chair, the letter can go out as soon as we have the letter drafted, then the board chair can sign it.
It sounds like that's what's requested. Yeah. Director Pratt?
I'd say staff draft the letter and sign it as needed, or ASAP. It's the last thing that we can really do that's very substantial with our water advocacy on this project. And also, as Remco said, reopening the discussion around Chapman, I think is key too, because there's it was very worrisome to hear some time ago that because we were investigating other sources, that's why we were no longer getting 2-year permits for that siphon system. So they're changing the bar, or they're moving the bar every time we do something, and that's just not right.
Thank you. Director Toth?
Thank you. Yeah, if this board sends this letter sort of as soon as possible, the incoming board can write a letter in a month and send it too, if they so choose, showing that this is an issue that crosses political considerations, right? There will be a new board appointed here. There will be new people sitting here, but it's still important to those people too. Because I think if it just comes once, it's easy enough to go, yeah, half those people aren't there anymore. So, thank you.
Thank you. So it sounds like we'd like a letter drafted and signed and sent out ASAP. All right. So would someone like to make the recommendation that's been kind of drafted? Okay, we've got a first and we've got a second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? Thank you very much. One more. Go ahead.
Yeah, if we could get a chance to see the draft letter so that everyone can, because we need more cooks in the kitchen.
May I have one?
Yes?
I would like to, not sure if it's appropriate, but I would like to really thank all the staff that have been working the last several weeks, hours and nights to keep the system running, and I think they deserve a thank you.
Yes, very much so. Thank you. All right. Anything further on this item? Director McMahon?
Yeah, sorry. I always have more questions. How is the water treatment plant doing? Are we managing the minimum flows there?
Thank you for the question. Oh, I'll turn on my camera. Thank you for the question. We actually replaced some critical components in our plant to be able to operate at lower flow. So we made adjustments so that we can actually stay in production instead of we had to shut off. So there were adjustments made there as well.
Awesome. Director Lee.
I believe we get a later run of fish as well. The coho come quite late after November, don't they? Are we going to be okay with our environmental flow for the later runs as well, or could there be a problem with that? And would we need the siphon for that? Is that a danger, or the poor little fishes just have to hope the rain comes?
The flows are sufficient, and we have a condition in our approval to reduce the flows to increase them again the moment fish are starting to migrate. Trim is currently in the creek. So I think moving onward, we will stay at 200 liters a second for sure.
Thank you. Anything else on this report? Seeing none, let's move on to item number 5, Annex C, pages 14 through 17, Church Road Phase 4B Construction Management Services Contract Amendment and Construction Change Order. Over to staff.
Thank you, Chair Seegers. Presented for your review and approval are 2 contract amendments related to the Church Road Waterline project. The first is a contract amendment with Associated Environmental for their continuing construction management services, and the other one is a contract amendment with the construction contractor Macon. During construction for the water treatment plant building, poor soil conditions were encountered, which required the deepening of the building foundation upon solid material. Consequently, additional design costs with Associated Environmental and additional construction costs with Macon were incurred. Additionally, the cost increase for Associated is for the continuation of their construction management services from October until project commissioning in early 2023. Staff recommends the board approve both cost increases before you today, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Directors, any questions or comments? Director Hiltz.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just a question on the recommendation. It's the funding, the and that, about the $9,270,000 to be funded long-term. The report says it's a $9 million and a $270K split with capital reserves. So do we need to adjust that recommendation on the funding formula or allocation for the project? It's listed in the report.
Yes, thank you for the question. There is an increase requested up to the maximum amount, which includes the AAP loan plus the regional reserves for the $9 million, whatever that was, 270,000, I believe it was.
So the question is the 270 already approved from capital reserves, or is this a new decision that we need to approve?
The $9 million is the long-term loan, and 270,000 is from capital reserves.
So what the request is, should the recommendation
Yes.
indicate $9 million to be funded from long-term debt
And
and 270,000 from capital reserves?
yes, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Director Lee?
Yes, it's a follow-up to the last report. I read that there's a chance we could get the production well in service early November. Could we do better if we had more money and paid for some overtime and hammered at her and give you a little bit more money right now under this?
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Remco.
Sorry, Steve. we're currently exploring all options to expedite the construction. And I know there was a question, and we also received it through other channels. Could we have constructed the project or get the project, at least in a temporary nature, completed earlier? Some of the critical components were just not ready yet, of the line infrastructure. So we're doing what we can to get it online as soon as possible in some shape or form, and at least to get some water out of it.
Thank you. Director Toth?
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, I'm totally in favor of moving forward with this project and with the recommendations. I did want to draw attention to the contract increase with Associated Environmental. Like, that's a 30% increase in the contract value. Obviously, we need to move forward with it. I just wanted to draw attention to the amount of increase that's represented there. Thank you.
Remco?
Maybe one thing I can clarify there is this is construction oversight until April next year, or March, April next year. However, this is an up to amount. So if there's no construction happening, there's no construction oversight happening. So this is more to make sure that we have the support, that we don't need to come back to the board for another one in 3 months from now, that we have the funds that are required to finish the project and there's no delays as a result of any unforeseen circumstances.
Thank you. Director Toth?
Thank you very much for that. I'm happy to move the recommendations on page 14.
As
with
amended?
the amendment.
Yes, thank you. And that's been seconded. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have a number of items in front of us. I'm sensing the board needs a break. It's kind of dragging in here right now. So it is 3:13. How about if we take 7 minutes, 3:20, and we'll come back? Thank you. 7-minute break. Welcome back to the Sunshine Coast Regional District regular board meeting of Thursday, October 27th. We are moving on to item number D. This is the new committee structure, page 18. So many years, it was talked about switching the committee structure at the regional district to a committee of the whole and board from numerous separate department committees. So with a little bit of angst, we put that in place. We put the new committee and structure in place effective May 6th. And so we promised at that point that we would come back as a board and talk about, did it work? Did it not work? What was the impact? From a board level, these are actually our meetings. So there have been, there's been positive impact from what I understand, and a corporate officer could speak to that, on staff time. But this is an opportunity for us as a board to say, did it work? Did it not work? Because the new chair coming in will be looking at setting up a committee structure. Director Toth.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I was really concerned about the sort of the way we rolled this out in the beginning, but when you look at the number of committees we had and the number of committees we have, we've actually got the same number of committees. They're just more flexibility with the committee of the whole. I think the Board Policy Review Committee is going to be an important one for the next couple of years, probably, to get through the policies that we've started down reviewing. I think Committee of the Whole has worked really well. Electoral Area Services, it sort of turned, it's basically a planning and, rural issues committee, but everybody attends it anyways. So I don't know if it necessarily would need to stay as a electoral area services committee or could just be another committee of the whole or part of one of the existing ones. But yeah, just my thoughts on it. Thank you.
Director McMahon?
Yeah, I would say that I'm generally happy. I think we should keep an electoral services committee because it is mostly stuff that the municipalities don't vote on. And so they can feel like they can, take time off if they want to. And since they're not being paid by the meeting anymore, they don't actually have to turn up. In terms of marketing, Cow 1 and Cow 2 is a bit limp. I don't know if we could come up with a more attractive handle for those committees that would also allow us to easily...
black cow?
Oh, yeah. Different colored cows, yeah, right. I do think that we need to look a bit at the agenda review situation because trying to do the agenda reviews on a Friday morning has been a real crunch, and I don't think we're very effective when we're trying to rush things like that. So that's about it for me.
Thank you. Director Hilt?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'll agree. It shortens up the cycles. Moving things directly to board have all been successful, but I agree with Director McMahon. The little bit that we had with the agenda reviews the prior week felt tight. I'm not sure if there's a way to streamline that at all or improve that. One of the concerns is finding stuff. It used to be kind of subject oriented, so if it was going to be this, I could go there. And right now, anything can go into the cow. I know it does sound funny, doesn't it? Yeah. So I think better, God, the metaphors are just more breadcrumbs for finding our way through the cow. So, and hopefully that will be through the improved website. So that's, I think, yeah, that's all I'll say. Thanks.
Thank you. Director Pratt?
Thank you. Do we call it a goat because it takes everything or eats everything? I don't know. I would say that, yeah, I was initially hesitant about going to this structure too, but I do like it. Coincidentally, it came into effect on my birthday, so we'll just say it's, I'll endorse it that way. I actually personally, another thing that I was reluctant about was the Friday morning agenda review, but I actually like it. because it does give staff an opportunity. I know when with the cow that I chair, we've moved a few things to board, and I know it's happened with the other cow as well. Is that there's, we're looking at the agenda. It's like, okay, well, does this need to be on this committee agenda, or can it just go straight to board? So I appreciate the contracts going straight to board. I think that streamlines things. The Electoral Area Services Committee is, it frees up the municipal directors to not have to attend, which I think is beneficial to them because they do have other jurisdictions to look into as well, or to oversee as well. So personally, I'm personally, and I know this does not affect me at all because I'm no longer there. But from a governance structure piece, I think this streamlines everything going forward. And if it's, I hope it's making it easier for staff as well. So thanks.
Thank you. Director Lee?
I was a little apprehensive about the cow meetings, strictly because I felt that we're going to have trouble finding stuff in the future that we dealt with when we go back over history. But I actually like the ability for staff to bring a subject to us as soon as it's ready. And we need to be all about getting things out of here earlier. And if that, I believe it helps us do that. It saves several weeks on several projects, which is important. So, yeah, I think it's fine. I'm okay with the Friday morning agenda reviews. It makes me feel like we have a Friday now, where before Thursday used to be it. So it's good. And all it does is, for the couple of people that have to attend the Friday morning, you're going to spend the time that weekend anyway, so it's fine. It's a good time well spent. So, yeah, I think it was a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Sherry, could you tell us the impact on your department?
Thank you, Chair. Well, first of all, I just want to actually say that staff will work with whatever meeting framework that is in the board's best interest and what supports their conduct of business and how they move through their decision-making process. So from our perspective, it's still relatively early, so I think we've been doing this for 5 or 6 months now. So we're still working through operational process, and we still have a little bit of a ways to go to refine that. From a timeline perspective, speaking strictly from legislative services perspective, the way we can get agendas out much quicker now under this new timeline. So often we were here sometimes till 7 o'clock on a Friday night trying to get an agenda out, and we no longer have that. We're out of here pretty much on time Friday evenings. So from a timeline perspective, it is working.
Oh, I just got the blue screen of death on my computer. All right. Anybody else? Any comments? Director Toth?
Thank you. I totally forgot to talk or mention the agenda review, because to get the agendas Thursday, well, even if they come during the day on Thursday, we're usually in a meeting on Thursdays. So for them to come, say, Thursday evening and then be able to turn around for Friday morning to do an agenda review, it's not a big deal if it's 30, 40 pages, but if it's a 2 or 5 or 1,000-page agenda, I don't know if there's any ability going forward to pull that back one more day so that the draft agendas come out on a Wednesday. It's just something for staff to consider and for the next board to consider. Yeah, thank you.
I know the District of Sechelt, we also have agenda review Thursday nights. I don't know if the town of Gibson's does that Thursday nights as well.
Thank you, Chair. Our agendas come out Wednesday noon. They're reviewed on Monday.
So it's just District of Sechelt that we have a lot of reading to do Thursday nights. It can be 5, yeah, we had 2 zoning bylaws. You can imagine what that week was like. All right, Director Hiltz.
Yeah, on the topic of the agenda reviews, yeah, so whether, this is sort of the scope of, how much in the past, how much I needed to prepare to be able to go through an agenda review, and the idea of, like what Director Pratt is saying, moving things on and off, kind of more on the sorting rather than the content in some ways, so kind of refining what the agenda reviews are about, I think might kind of deal with those 1,000-page agendas that you're trying to turn over in 3 hours. Like, so kind of refining the scope of what the agenda reviews would include might be one of those ways to kind of streamline that a bit. Thanks.
All right, so generally what I'm hearing is directors like the committee of the whole format, and there's potentially some refining to do both on the operational side for staff and for directors. That seems general consensus? All right, sounds good. Anything further on this? Director Hiltz?
Are you expecting a recommendation coming out of this, or this will be part of the minutes and for the next board?
Yes, this will be part of the minutes for the next chair and for staff to advise. Right. Okay, because yeah, Director Pratt? Sorry, I can't see you on, okay. I'm trying to get back into the meeting on Zoom too. Go ahead, Director Pratt.
Okay, no worries. I will just wave madly, and somebody can either tell you I'm waving, or you can all just ignore me. It doesn't matter. I was just going to say that, this is all feedback, and for any of the elected that will be sitting at the table, I'm sure they're listening, and they will choose to go forward as they go forward. So you never know. The new chair may decide to go to a completely different committee structure and go back, but this is our feedback, and I think having seen it done a number of ways over the decades that I lived on coast, I like this probably the best. So.
I'm just wondering if our CAO had any comments about this system. I know it's not, it's more a legislative services issue, but from an overall staff perspective.
Yeah, thank you. Happy to provide a couple of additional comments. I think Sherry summed it up really nicely from a staff perspective. These agendas end up having a rhythm of their own, and it takes a while for everyone to become in sync with that rhythm. And while it's only been 5 months, we are starting to get the rhythm of this new system, which included for us not just changing the agenda structure, but the timelines, because we wanted to use this change as an opportunity to see people go home a little earlier on Friday evenings, which was not sitting well with any of us. So we found a way to make this system work. I think it's working fairly well from a staff perspective. We're protecting our people a little better. But as Sherry said, and as the chair stated at the beginning, these are your meetings. That is your structure. We are here to implement whatever works best for you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, I think we've given our input. Perfect. Moving on. Let's move on to item E. This is number 7, pages 19 through 20. Award report for RFP 22-11-702 cell phone services. And this is our manager. Oh, and it's Ms. Perot. Over to you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Our manager of IT is on well-deserved vacation at the moment, so I'll be taking this particular report. This is to renew or actually approve our new cell phone contract. Our current contract is coming to an end at the end of December 31st this year. And so this was to award to Rogers, which will be a change for the regional district, so it'll take some time to implement, but it doesn't require any financial plan amendment as these amounts are incurred or included in various divisional and service budgets, so we can take any questions if we have any.
Thank you. Directors? Any questions or comments? I don't see any hands. Director Toth.
Thank you. Just from a operational perspective, given how remote some parts of our community are, I know that, TELUS has made substantial investments in infrastructure. Do we have any concerns or possible issues that might arise by switching to a different vendor in terms of remote connection for our staff?
Before we actually awarded this contract, we actually coordinated with Rogers to go to the various sites that we suspected may have some concerned areas, and they all passed. So that was before we awarded the contract. We wanted to make sure that connectivity in the specific areas were sufficient, and they were satisfactory. So we felt comfortable proceeding with awarding the contract.
Thank you. Director McMahon? It looks like your hand's up, no? Okay. Sorry. Director Kroll?
I did have my hand up, and I think Director Perot somewhat answered that. When I worked at CBC, we switched from TELUS we went from Bell to Rogers. And although the contract initially at the beginning was cheap, we got hit with a lot of sort of add-on things that needed to be added to the system to make it function, dealing with access in certain areas. So I trust with the work that's been done to research, it has been dealt with. The other thing I find a little disconcerting is, when you talk about social equity and things, TELUS has been very supportive in the community, supporting other things other than communication. So it always concerns me a bit when someone who is a significant player in the community, for whatever reason, doesn't step up to provide service. So it's just, my 2 cents worth.
Now Director McMahon has her hand up.
Yeah, well, since you were insisting. Yeah, I had 1 or 2 thoughts, but later. In the meantime, I would like to move the recommendations on page 19.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for those recommendations? Seconded. Any further comments or questions? All those in favor? Thank you. And Director McMahon. Sorry, your hand was still up, and I thought maybe then you wanted to talk about your other ones. Perfect. Let us move on to number 8, Annex F, pages 21 through 22, 2022 local government election results. And over to the corporate officer.
Thank you, Chair. So this report is coming forward in accordance with Section 158(1) of the Local Government Act that states that the Chief Election Officer must submit a report of the election results to the local government within 30 days after the declaration of official results. So we have brought that forward to this meeting for your review.
Thank you. And congratulations to all the directors who will be sitting around this table come a week and a half from now, somewhere about there, 2 weeks from now. I'm sure you'll have just as much fun as we have. Maybe more. And maybe more, yes. All right. Thank you. All right, moving on. Item number 9, 2023 meeting schedule, Deputy Corporate Officer, Annex G, pages 23 through 36.
I'll take that. So the schedule of board and board committee meetings is adopted annually in accordance with our board procedures bylaw. Our corporate practice in election years is actually to bring that schedule forward for adoption to the last meeting in October. Staff are not recommending any changes to the meeting schedule at this time, and we've proposed a status quo continuation of the current meeting schedule. And I'll also note that changes to the meeting schedule can be made by board resolution throughout the year.
Thank you. So I know the question that some of the directors have had is, why are we doing it now, given we're having a new chair come in and the structure could change? And what you're saying is we will put this in place. If the new chair requests something else and the board supports that, then that can change at that time.
Yes, that's correct. And operationally, it does help staff in terms of planning to have an idea of what the 2023 schedule may or may not look like.
Thank you. Directors. Director Toth.
It's the may not look like that worries me. I was one of the ones that had the question about why are we doing this? This should be something that should be up at the first meeting of the new board. The deadline, as I understand it, end of October. Is that a deadline through Local Government Act or through our own procedure bylaw?
Our procedure bylaw actually says that the meeting schedule must be adopted by the second meeting in November. So theoretically, this could be deferred to November 24th. That would be up to the board. It's coming forward more as a matter of practice.
I'll give it a shot and I'll see what sticks. I'd like to move that this be deferred to a board meeting in November.
All right, is there a seconder for the recommendation?
Unfortunately, it sounds like the board likes cow. But do it
Not
in
being
your
seconded. That motion dies on the floor. Is there anyone who'd like to make another recommendation? Director Hills.
Sure, I'll try. I'll move the recommendations as presented on page 23.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for those recommendations? Seconded? Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? Any opposed? Would you like that recorded?
That's not necessary, thank you.
Thank you. All right. We've had that happen a few times at our District of Seashell meetings. Somebody will throw something out there and it'll just kind of, everybody sits there and looks at each other. It works fine. All right, so that's that one. Moving on to number 10, Annex H, pages 37 through 38, Office of the CAO Monthly Report. And did you want to speak to this, CAO?
Yes, normally I would avoid speaking to it as much as possible. I will be happy to take your questions after this, but there were a couple of things I just wanted to add. One, I wanted to echo some of the thanks that Remco expressed for the infrastructure staff, water staff, all of the EOC staff. And since Remco wasn't going to thank himself, I'm going to thank him as well for all the work that he's done. When I wear my SCRD jacket around town, I often get approached by people, and often it isn't to tell us what an amazing job we're doing. However, in this case, I was approached by many people that have been paying attention, and they did thank SCRD staff, especially the folks that are working through this emergency in keeping our water going. And I try to pass those things along, but I don't take it lightly when people are saying thank you. It's interesting, as public figures, we develop a thick skin for criticism and we get quite uncomfortable with praise. So it was odd to be having praise heaped at our staff, which makes me really proud. Not in my report, but since I'm in a praising mood, I also want to recognize Sherry Reid, the entire Legislative Services staff, and all the people that worked so hard throughout this election to pull it off. It's a tremendous amount of work, and I would extend that to all the people that worked on the elections in Gibsons and District of Seashelt as well. And I promise this next part I won't take long. However, there are a few other people I would like to recognize while I'm in a recognizing mood. And I was thinking back on it today. My wife Denise says that I mark time weirdly. I recognize odd anniversaries or things that might not be significant to others. And I was realizing that I was marking one this week. This week, and particularly Tuesday, October 22nd, 2019, was a day that I met many of you for the very first time. That was the day of my job interview here at the Sunshine Coast, where I met 5 people in particular that were about to become incredibly important and prominent in my life. And those are directors Lori Pratt, Darnell DeSeegers, Andreas Ties, Mark Hiltz, and Bill Beamish. Bill's not here today, but I'd like to share these words to him as well. To all of you, I would like to say thank you. Thank you for your dedication, your courage, and your incredible support. Thank you for your leadership, your energy, your willingness to question, your willingness to challenge, and your willingness to champion. We're all here together in large part because we're compelled and dedicated in service. Service of others, service to the residents of the Sunshine Coast. Your roles aren't easy. They're very difficult. They're often thankless. They come at a tremendous personal cost to you as individuals, and they come at a cost to your families. You've set an excellent example for our incoming directors, 3 of whom are here today. It's been my pleasure and honor to serve you and to serve alongside you. And this isn't goodbye. I wish all of you the best in whatever comes next, and who knows, we may be at some point across the table from one another again. But I wanted to say a very heartfelt thank you. It has been an honor.
Thank you. I always find these times tough. Okay. Any questions for our CAO on anything on his report? Director Pratt, or McMahon, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. That's a hard act to follow. But I will say that I was a little nervous going out on the art crawl on the weekend for fear that I was going to get buttonholed and asked questions about water. And I did get buttonholed by one person who said that her son is a helicopter pilot, and he was so impressed by the tremendous work that our infrastructure crews have been doing, and their focus and their dedication. So, you know, that's really nice to hear. So I just wanted to ask one picayune question. I understand that planning front counter hours have been reduced. What's the situation is? Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Director. So planning did recently make a service change to offer appointment-only service for our planning division with no walk-up. We did that to promote efficiency and quality of service. There's no longer any waiting. People can come in for scheduled appointments at a time when we were experiencing staff shortage. And we appreciate that change is hard and apologize to anyone who was surprised. But I would note that we've received very few negative comments. We have proceeded with appointments. It seems to be working pretty well. And going forward, we plan to offer a staffing and service level update as part of our quarterly report. It's being drafted now. You'll see some of you will see it in a couple of weeks. And overall, we're also on the cusp of launching our development approval process review. That's the grant-funded project that the board supported some months ago. We'll be initiating that shortly. The RFP for consultant services closes this week, I think, or next week. I apologize, I can't remember. And we'll be looking at how best we can deliver services in a time of a very strong development cycle and with a small team. Thanks.
Thank you. Director Toth.
Thank you. I just want to follow up on Director McMahon's planning question with another one to that. The getting appointments with the planning staff, what sort of a turnaround time are you aiming for? Like if somebody's coming down from Egmont and they realize that they needed an appointment, like can they get one, later that day, or is it usually sort of a 24 to 48 hours thing? Thanks.
Thanks for the question. We're running more at the 2-week level at the moment. That's based on, and we've been transparent in communicating our backlog. I don't have the current number, but at the beginning of the week, it was around 400. Staff do take note of the priority of the inquiry, and if somebody's ask is or need is attached to something that has a closing date or something like that, we'll do our best to accommodate. But we're also doing our best to communicate as openly as we can about the backlog that we have and how we're managing it and what we're doing to resolve it. Thanks.
Thank you. I suspected that might have been the answer. I was just cautiously optimistic. It might not be. Thank you.
Thank you. Directors, any further questions for our CAO on his report? Director Toth, did you have something further? Thank you. All right, thank you for that. Moving on, we're going to go to communications. This is the piece that got added to this agenda. This is a letter from Debbie Ferguson, President, Sunshine Coast Lions Housing Society, and regarding a letter of support for Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation funding for the Arbutus Building project at Green Court. So they have been approved, just some background for you, they have been approved by CMHC for a little over $40 million, but they have found that CMHC actually came out with a program that could assist the Lions in actually not having to put as much of their own funds in, and they can be stacked. So while they will be moving forward without hearing back from this, they are looking to see whether or not additional funds can be received for the project. And they have reached out to both governments here to request a letter of support to go with their application. So, Director McMahon.
Yes, this is a desperately needed facility, desperately needed several years ago. So I'd be happy to move that we send them a letter of support.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? Thank you. Then we're going to move on to director's reports. And how about if we start with Director Pratt, and then we'll come into the room.
Well, thank you. The dry tears, it's funny, CAO McKinley. I mark dates very funny that way as well, and my friends all think I'm strange too. So there you go. It's been a it's been an emotional time as we're winding down this term and everything. So not a lot going on, but there are a few things. Still communicating with a few residents, and very excited to be speaking a lot with our Area B elect, Justine Gabias, and really looking forward to seeing her join the table on November the 10th. Something that's upcoming for Area B is November the 4th. The Half Moon Bay Community Association will be hosting a town hall with electoral area direct Gabias, as well as our member of the Legislative Assembly, Nicholas Simons. It goes from 6 to 8 p.m. And then they'll be having their annual general meeting just after that. Otherwise, tonight, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, we have a Ferry Advisory Committee meeting. So, Director Kroll, I will see you there after. So that'll be interesting. It's the first one we've had in a significantly long time. I think pre-COVID was the last time we had a public FAC. So, of course, there's been a lot of changes at BC Ferries since our last meeting, and it'll be a very interesting conversation tonight. It is open to the public, so if anybody does want, it's all going to be held virtually as well. So if you would like the Zoom coordinates, just shoot me a message and I will send them off to you. And other than that, I certainly have been reflecting a lot. There's a lot of things, but I think I'll leave a lot of those comments for private. I've said more than enough, put my heart on my sleeve for enough of the time that I've been there and haven't been there. So miss you all, and thank you to everybody. My hand's up to you all. And Philip, I'm really sorry we didn't get a chance to meet. But it's great to see you at the table, and good luck, everyone, and good luck to the new board.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Lori, will that FAC meeting be recorded that people can watch it later if they aren't able to attend?
Director Kroll, my understanding is the answer would be no. Is that correct?
Thank you, Lori. It's the whole thing is a bit up in the air because it seems BC Ferries sort of dropped the ball in making everyone aware that it is in fact a public meeting. So I think it's probably going to end up being more virtual, and being more virtual, it likely will be recorded.
I don't think it is going to be recorded, but I can ask as soon as we start it. And it will be held via WebEx, and I'm not sure I'm sure they have similar capabilities to Zoom, but we just actually had the agendas officially shared with us this afternoon. So for a meeting tonight. So, but I'll bite my tongue there for any other comments. I don't have to complain about BC Ferries anymore after tonight, so.
All right, I think there's a number of us that would, have other engagements, and so would like to take part or hear what's said, but don't have the availability to be able to be there. So if it's possible to get it recorded and shared, that would be much appreciated.
Perfect.
All right, how about if we start at the end of the table over here with Director Hiltz and move our way down?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, last board report. I guess it's October 15th, voted at Eric Cardinal Hall. It was quick, efficient, and use of electronic vote tabulator. So thank you very much. Nice to see the SCRD staff there. The Gibsonson District Fire Department also hosted an in-person event on Election Day. It was hot and sunny, great turnout. Families and kids, food, drinks. There was a bouncy castle, fire department, displays and trucks, display of fire extinguishers, alarm systems. The SCRD wildfire people were there. Got to actually go in the fire truck, the Quint, which I've never been in. It highly recommend it. And I was guided and toured by some of the volunteers, and they were impressive. Qualified, experienced, committed, motivated, terrific. And I saw, I'm going to call him Citizen Kroll. He was Citizen Kroll that day. He was there with the Marine Search and Rescue, so congratulations, David, and thank you for wearing so many hats. I passed on the keys to Area F to Director-elect Stanford. We did a tour of Area F, so I officially gave her, I didn't actually give you a key, but I think you got it. Gibson District Library Association meeting was held, and an update there is the book locker, it's in the final stages of working out a few IT kinks that need to be resolved before launching the service, so everyone's eagerly awaiting for that. And then I guess I'm going to do the thank you mode. There was one thing. Actually, there's a whole bunch of things I didn't know 4 years ago, and I think I know some of them now, and one of them was that when you get elected to the SCRD board, you also get a seat on Team Sunshine Coast bench. So thank you, Lori, for Team Sunshine Coast and leading us through those first 3 years. CAOs, directors, staff, and community, you did a tremendous job of building us up. So, and then Darnelda brings it home in the final year. So thanks, Darnelda, for your guidance. Terrific. Then we have the colleagues. Oh my God, what a group. Everyone did the work necessary for what I'm going to call informed, defensible decisions. I'm proud of the work that we've done, so thank you. Ooh, this is getting harder as I go through here. CAO, SLT, and the staff. Thanks for the advice, the understanding, and the commitment to high-quality professional public services. And my view of the SCRD has really changed. I used to be more of an activist kind of a person. And now what I see is there's really two sides to the SCRD, that corporate side, and then the elected side over here. And we are in this bridge place. And I used to think it was two sides of the same coin, and now I'm thinking of it as two sides of the same paddle, right? You've got corporate on one side, elected on the other, and the public is there giving us the power, but we're all in the canoe. So that's kind of where I am, and I like paddling, so I'm going to spend more time paddling and seeing how the two sides of a paddle work more frequently. You can do a lot with a paddle, by the way, just for those people who know how to paddle. And I just wish everybody success, and good wishes. So thanks.
Thank you, Director Kroll.
Thank you, Chair. I'll try and keep this brief. And I'm trying to remember the last director's report I gave here, because I think Mayor Beamish was filled in since my last appearance here. We did the traditional Thanksgiving community dinner in Gibson's. We did just under 500 meals. We ran out of turkey. We ran out of mashed potatoes. We didn't run out of amazing volunteers. I know Mayor Seegers has participated with the activity in Seashelt. It really is. It's a great community engagement. people from all walks of life come out just to, and this year we were able to do sit down again, which was very well received. So kudos to everyone who came and helped with that. Director Hiltz mentioned the event at the Gibsons Fire Department. I think it's really impressive for people to be able to get out and see what our volunteer fire departments do. The commitment of those individuals, you know, with the Marine Search and Rescue, it's one thing, but the commitment of the fire department, you know, the level of training they do and the enthusiasm and just the engagement with the community, it was really heartwarming to see. So I was really pleased to partake in that. We're already looking, Remco's, you know, screaming in horror, snow and ice at Chapman Lake. We're already proceeding in Gibson's, working towards our cold weather shelter for this winter. So that's on the books. 1st of October, we had the 50th anniversary of Beachcombers, first airing on CBC TV. It was sort of a bittersweet ceremony. For those who managed to attend, it is on, we streamed it to YouTube. Jackson Davies and I just winged it. Corey Douglas was there, who played a small boy in the series. He's now an adult, an architect, an artist in his own right, and he's working with tourism in the town of Gibsons. Looking forward to sort of creating a new home for the Persephone. And then Charlene Alec hosted a memorial to Pat John on the 16th of October at the Swaleytooth facility on the Dollarton Highway, which is an absolutely amazing facility. Thou shalt not covet other people's facilities, but this one you really want to covet. It's unbelievably beautiful. And certainly a tribute to the nation, the design and thought that went into it. But it was an incredibly moving ceremony. There were Beachcombers cast and crew there. Matt John was there, Pat's son, who was focus of a blanket ceremony, which was very moving. And speaking of moving, the experience on this board, you know, I think Director Hiltz sort of alluded to it, being an activist at one point. It's very easy to criticize systems and how they work and the flaws. But when you suddenly find yourself sitting on this side of the table and seeing the level of engagement of staff and their dedication to try and make our jobs easier, and engaging with the public, who aren't always as sympathetic as one might hope they might be. But it is a huge eye-opener, and I can only encourage people on the board and people who are leaving the board to share their experience with as many people as they can, because I think through understanding, we might find our jobs becoming a little easier. I'll leave it at that, I think. Team Sunshine Coast, there was a huge, I think it worked positively. Our engagement with ministers, I think their jaws sort of drop when they see 18 of us walk into a minister's meeting and they go sort of, oh my God. But they listen. UBCM this year, the town of Gibsons, we've already had feedback from ministers we engaged with as Team Sunshine Coast. So I would encourage the new members on this board to work with your municipalities and with the nation and ensure that we have a very loud voice, because with the challenges before us, we need it. Thank you.
Thank you. Director McMahon.
Oh, my turn. Well, I'm not going to bother with the report of what I've done lately. I just thought this is nostalgia day, right? So I like to think about what's changed in 4 years. I mean, holy cow, this it's a whole different game. I mean, quite apart from the fact that we went virtual, and you know, we just some of the things here. We hired a CAO. We greeted a new corporate officer and a new general manager of community services. We signed a collective agreement, which is a pretty nerve-wracking thing for the first time you do it. We implemented curbside organics pickup. We We passed new short-term rental regulations and a new zoning bylaw. We approved a huge whack of water projects and garbage projects. We even got the director remuneration reviewed, which is amazing, and it was long overdue. And then we spend a lot of time banging our collective heads against bureaucracies that are critical to the Sunshine Coast but outside our control, like Modi and Flinrod and, gosh, BC Ferries. And as a bonus, we enjoyed 12 Emergency Operations Centers activations, which is epic. I mean, absolutely epic. Not to mention the new and unique experiences like a global pandemic and a heat dome and days of stifling smoke and an atmospheric river. And we kept laughing, which we pretty much have to do. So, I just like to, ending up this 4-year term, I'd just like to thank everybody. Senior staff, wonderful group of people here to work with. It has been a slice. And it went by really fast.
Thank you. Director Toth.
Here's hoping the next 4 years are boring, hey? I think that I actually have a District of Sechelt thing to report. The Community Forest and ELF will be at the Roberts Creek Hall tonight from 7 till 9 to give presentations and take questions from the community. The Community Forest has been doing some amazing work in terms of stepping up their outreach. So hopefully as many of you that aren't going to be at the ferry meeting as possible can make it. I do want to say thank you to the community for supporting my re-election to Sechelt Council. I'm hoping to continue on here at the Regional District Board as well, so long as my council is willing. I want to take a minute to say thank you to Director Ties and Director Hiltz, who are wise enough to walk away from politics while they're still ahead and still popular with their communities. I also want to say thank you to Director Pratt. Lori, you've become a friend, and I can't say enough in appreciation of the work that you did as chair of the board for 3 years, and you've done an amazing job of representing your community these last 4 years, even if they didn't appreciate it at the time. I'm disappointed not to see what you could get up to with another 4 years here on the Sunshine Coast. The three of you have contributed a lot, not only in terms of constituency and board work, but also in terms of making the work of this board fun and interesting. Team Sunshine Coast was only possible because of your contributions. I also want to say welcome to our directors-elect who are here in the meeting, joining us in the gallery today. I look forward to seeing how we, across all governments, can continue to build Team Sunshine Coast. And finally, to Chair Seegers. I'm not going to be as long-winded and as eloquent as Councillor McLean was yesterday, but thank you for your time, both as mayor and this last year as board chair. I know that we've had times that we don't see eye to eye, but over the last 4 years, I've learned so much from you, and I look forward to seeing what you get up to next and how we can help you. So, thank you.
Thank you. I have Kleenex. Good. Director Ties.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I kind of scripted out something, and usually I'm very bad at following scripts, but I'll try to stick to it this time. This meeting for me is bittersweet. This is my last meeting here, unless another emergency pops up. I have truly enjoyed the last 4 years, and I have a lot of gratitude to everyone here, and those of you that are not here, like Lori, and everybody else on the screen there. It's not, oh, actually, everybody else is here. I thought there might be some senior management team not here, but please pass on my regards. See, there's me going off script. I would like to express my gratitude for the exceptionally respectful, supportive, and generally fun atmosphere that was had here. It's truly been an honor to be part of this board, and I hold everyone in it, on it in high respect. A big thank you to the senior management team at the SRD and the staff who are truly passionate about their jobs and their community. That's something I learned over the last 4 years. A big thank you also to all the volunteers that make this community tick, including the fire departments, search and rescue, the APCs, the OCPCs, RCCA, and others. If I can give one piece of advice to the incoming board, it would be to practice WAIT, which stands for Why Am I Talking? I feel it has served me well. If this was a different time in my life, I would definitely consider running again. Knowing the results of the election now, I feel confident that the SCRD board is in good hands and will continue to move business forward in a productive manner with the greatest benefit for the whole coast in mind. I have had some handover meetings with Kelly Bax and Candace Woods, and I will continue to be available as a resource for anyone that needs it. I depart with fondness and gratitude in my heart, and I may be back one day. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Paul.
Hi. Being new to this board and new to politics, it's given me a very behind the curtain kind of view. So I'd like to thank the board members that are not going to continue on. And it's not fair the way we get judged on a lot of stuff. So it takes a lot of courage and a lot of strength to continue to go on with this. So I'd like to thank you all for your service with this. For the new people, you get to join me at this being new, so it should be an adventure. To the staff, like my previous job, which I'm just on LOA from, being boots on the ground is tough, so thank you guys for your work on that too. I mean, that's where I come from, so it is very, you don't always get appreciated for the extra stuff that you do, so thank you guys for your work on that. From an SNGD perspective, my only update is a wastewater treatment plant that's been finally approved in Slocum beside Port Stalishan. That's been fully funded and on its way. So that's going to service, I think, a pretty big area that's normally, I think, on septic and stuff. So, and then the Modi repairs towards East, well, it used to be East Porpoise Bay Road, Seashell Inlet Avenue is postponed till the spring because of the dry conditions and into the rain. So hopefully this keeps going good, and thank you guys.
Thank you. Director Lee.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not quite as eloquent as the rest of you guys, but I'll give her a go. I was just going to talk about business, but I guess I have to say I am really going to miss my new friends, Director Ties, Director Hiltz. I feel like I've got some good friends down south now, finally. So that's really cool. I'm hoping Director Cole will be joining us still. I guess that's still up in the air, though. But you'll still be around. You're a counselor. Team Sunshine Coast, eh? Director Pratt, I've been missing her already. I look forward to come to these meetings in person to catch up with everybody. And I think you guys will be considering everybody friends as well, our new directors, when you get into the swing here. And I think that's one of the reasons we went very early to in-person meetings, because you learn so much when you sit around and chat in between the formal part of it. Chair Seegers, I'm sure going to miss her. And I got to say thanks to both Chair Seegers and Chair Pratt for bailing me out so many times when I was heading down the wrong path, and they'll just get me by the scruff of the neck and straighten me up, which I kind of like. I need it. So it was so great. I don't need to thank our senior staff because I'm coming back and you guys are going to continue to look after me, but I do appreciate you looking after me. And I think the most important thing is that we always kept laughing no matter what happened. You know, we went through some tough times, but that didn't bother us. We'd be sitting here laughing and chuckling until the cameras come on, and then we got kind of serious, but it was all, I really enjoyed the great sense of humor that was apparent here from everybody. they appreciated a good joke and they were quick to get you, and that's important. So it truly was Team Sunshine Coast. So I'm going to miss that, and hopefully you guys don't go too far, and we'll continue to see each other. And I thought that I should tell you, I got my flu shot yesterday. So see, I'm still at it. I intend to stay around. Okay, thanks. That's it for me.
All right, I'm going to mention a few things first. Seashell Arts Festival is still on. It's on till the 31st, so there are lots of free events out there. Go check it out. It always amazes me, and I went to the opening, and it always amazes me how they come up with the theme and then how it actually shows up, how they bring everybody together. This one's called Uplifting, Uprising, Up something. I forget the theme, but I love the event. It's amazing. So check it out. Particularly go by the Seaside Center. And what they do each year as well at the Seaside Center is on the second floor is they do some archivist. So there's historical pictures, always very interesting and very informative. So check that out. Free, open till the 31st, so you've got till Monday. On the 14th, there was a celebration for Jane Davidson. So Jane Davidson, for 14 years, was the executive director for the Sunshine Coast Writers Festival. It's the only festival that has only Canadian authors, and she did an amazing job. This year, there was actually sufficient funding provided that they got in place to allow for a handover. So the new executive director came on, and they actually did this current one this year together. And so this was her basically celebrating what she did and who she did. So we'll see how things show up next year. On the 20th, I was granted the opportunity to join GM Gagnon at the People's Choice Awards Gala in Gibsons. The SCRD was awarded the People's Choice Award for family entertainment for the Seashell Aquatic Center. So there are pictures available, there's a sticker available, there's a little plaque or a little, and I think it's going to be showing at the Aquatic Center. So that was pretty cool. That was sponsored. People think it was sponsored by the Coast Reporter. They were one of the sponsors, but the impetus behind it was Sunshine Coast Regional Economic Development Organization and the Business Recovery Center. So they weren't given a lot of spotlight, but just know that they were behind that. Then I attended an event at the Botanical Gardens with regards to a provincial announcement for funding for mental health and substance use support for young people, age 12 to 24. It's the Foundry program. We are becoming the 23rd Foundry in the province, and Community Services took the lead on this. They've been working on this for 4 years, and the funding was announced on Friday. They will eventually have a physical space, but before that, they can actually have virtual support. And what it will be like is that any adult or child from 12 to 24 can walk in, phone in, and get automatic access to counseling and support across the spectrum, doctors, nurses, etc. So very much something that's needed on the Sunshine Coast and will be a huge benefit for our younger population. On Tuesday, I was presented with the first poppy of the Seashell Legion Poppy Campaign. So they'll be out this weekend. Watch for them, support them. And watch November 11th. Some of you coming on the board and the current board members will be asked to attend the celebrations on November 11th. All right, I'm going to talk about the community dinner. Yes, my husband and I actually go and cut turkeys or cut hams. This last time we did 14 turkeys. So there were 2 of us, and then we had somebody else who kind of got seconded to us as well. We didn't have as many in Seashell. I think we had about 200, 250 people. But it's such a great community event. The stores donate some of the food. The churches, just ordinary people on the street get involved. They're on the volunteer list and they come each time. Come back, come back, come back, and just prepare this food and provide it to people. And I can remember my first one that I went to. It's available to anybody. In the first one I went to, there was a young mother who came in. She was a single mom with 3 kids. And she said, I could make a turkey supper, but this allows me to actually spend time with my kids. So I'm picking this up. We can go home, we can share a nice meal, but I don't have to cook it, and I can just have time with them. So it's for anybody who wants to. You just have to phone in and put your name down, and the food's available. So if you haven't been and want to, please take advantage of that. All right. I've got Kleenex. Good. Okay. I remember Director Pratt saying, don't bubble wrap us. And that started it. We told staff, bring it on. Whatever it is that's going on, don't bubble wrap us, let us know. Keep us apprised. We can take it. So it took a lot of courage. It took a lot of reading, a lot of questioning. The directors all came, always very prepared, having read everything. Didn't matter what you threw at us as staff. It could be a 400-page agenda. We came and you knew that we had gone into those agendas and done the work. We sent you questions ahead of time so that, if there was something else we needed to know, you came prepared to provide that to us. We just said, keep bringing it on. We didn't always agree. Like Director Toth said, we didn't always agree. But there was always respect at the table, respect for decisions, and we respected each other. I think we made a difference. And Team Sunshine Coast, well, I've done a bit to keep that going. As you probably know, your first orientation will be with the Town of Gibsons, the newly elected Town of Gibsons and current staff, and the SCRD and the District of Sechelt. So you'll all be there together to get to know each other and spend a day together, have supper together. And I know you'll take it from there. You've got some great people coming back at each of the newly elected boards, councils. So I look forward to what you can accomplish. Thank you, staff. That's it. Can't say any more. All right. Lori, go ahead.
As I said before, I have a lot of private things that I'll be saying to everybody, I'm sure over the days ahead. But Darnelda, just thank you. Thank you for all of your leadership. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for helping me pack and labeling boxes, because you have no idea how much I'm appreciating that right now. But just thank you for everything. And you're right, we didn't always agree, but you and I, we had a vision going forward, and Donna as well. In that, I think back to Women's Campaign School, and setting a framework early that we wanted to change the conversation and how the conversation was done. And I think we made huge strides on it this term. I hope that continues, that sense of collaboration and moving forward. And thank you to everyone for bringing that forward. But Darnelda, for your leadership, I know it's been really, really tough. And we'll get together in person at some point, I'm sure. Our paths will cross again. And it's been an incredible honor to serve with you all. But Darnelda, you've done a great job, and thank you for pushing and or digging in your heels when needed to be done. But it's been an incredible time. So my hand's up to you all.
Thank you. All right. Anything anybody else needed to say before we're done this last meeting in public? All right, let us move on then. So we are looking to move in camera. And so I'd look for a motion that the public be excluded from attendance at the meeting in accordance with section 91 A, D, E, F, G, I, J, K, and 2B of the community charter. And would someone like to make that recommendation? Moved and seconded. All in favor? All right, and then if the new directors would like to stay, we've talked to the corporate officer, we have to move a recommendation to allow you to do that, but then we can do that. Would you like to stay? Yes. All right. Okay, and motion that the four of them be allowed to stay. You've got the names, seconded, all right. All those in favor? Thank you. All right, we're going to just take a couple of minutes while we get set up, and then we will move into in-camera meeting. Thank you. Welcome back to the Sunshine Coast Regional District Board meeting of Thursday, October 27th, and I'd look for a motion to adjourn. Moved, seconded, all in favor? Thank you very much. Thank you all.